Hey guys, welcome back to the DealMachine Real Estate Investing Podcast. You're an ambitious W-2 employee who wants to leave their job in the next year or so, probably earn $1 million a year, drive your dream car, pursue your passions, and take control of your life. On this podcast, you're going to learn from people who have replaced their W income through the proven business model of wholesaling real estate, a way to earn big checks by finding discounted real estate and passing it off to an investor who does have money, making as much as, in our guest case, $60K in a single finder's fee instance. And we're going to give you 2 weekly interviews and an expert-led masterclass in front of a live audience with participation. My co-host is Ryan Haywood, whose sales job cut his commissions in 2019, so he quit. And since his wife Megan was also pregnant at the time, he took a 14-day real estate wholesaling challenge and made $8,500 and has gone on to do 400 deals since then in St. Joe, Missouri, a town of about 70,000 people. And I'm David Lecko. I created a process for finding off-market deals. It's helped people close 10,000 deals in all 50 states, which turned into the software platform DealMachine.
The DealMachine REI Podcast. Everything you need to know to get started in real estate investing.
Our guest today is Kai Logue, and he's actually done 30 deals in just 2 years. On his first one, he made $1,000, and on his second one, just a month later, he made $60,000. And Kai, I can't wait for you to break down those 2 deals for us.
Man, I'm excited to do so. Man, thanks for having me on. I'm a big fan and super excited to be on the show.
Of course. So were you feeling pretty good when you made that $1,000?
No, I was kind of frustrated. Yeah. So it was cool. I got proof of concept and everything, but it was nice knowing that it worked. But it was frustrating. So I was busting my ass. I was driving for dollars. I was hitting the phones, and I'm here in San Antonio. And it's super competitive here. You know, we have huge companies here, and I didn't realize when I came here how competitive it was. Because I'm originally from Boston, moved to Texas to get into real estate investing, and I didn't know I picked like one of the most competitive markets you could pick, and so should have did some research.
What's driving for dollars for somebody who doesn't know?
Yeah, so driving for dollars. I was literally using that DealMachine. So I download this app on my phone called DealMachine, and so I drive around. I'd look for distressed properties. So really anything that would stick out like a sore thumb. You know, if we saw a house and the roof was banged up, or the weeds were super long, or they had a bunch of junk cars out front, or if they had like Christmas lights up and it was the summertime, really anything that made that house stick out from the rest in the neighborhood. Because the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. And if they're not taking care of the outside of the house, they're probably not taking care of the inside. They're probably not taking care, maybe personally their finances, or they might have some other issues. So those point to signs of being distressed. So those are people I want to market to you and see if they want to sell.
Okay. And what did the first one say whenever they called you back that you ended up doing a deal with?
So the first one, just told me to come on down and check it out. So he was actually pretty close by, and he already moved. He got a job offer. So he was in San Antonio, moved to New Braunfels, and that house was just sitting there. It was real beat up. And honestly, we're lucky we even made $1,000 looking back. The market was really hot then. And,
what were you looking for when you walked through the house?
Really, I didn't even know what I was looking for. So I was so green. But yeah, I was just looking for somebody that wanted to sell and, wanted to talk to me.
Okay. Well, what do you mean the market was hot? So you're surprised you made money?
Yeah. Like now you have to be a bit more conservative. It really wasn't a great deal. But the properties, they were hard to find at the time. And it was, I said, it's really it was a lot easier to move deals because people were.
So the fact that the market was hot was helpful.
It was just because, I was able to find a buyer.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it was easier to find a buyer on the back end.
Okay, gotcha. How did you find that buyer?
So we got it under contract. And then as far as finding a buyer, I think I found it off Facebook Marketplace. So I posted on Facebook Marketplace, on Craigslist. And then I did an open house and had a bunch of people come out. The guy ended up buying it sight unseen. Because there was you could see on that Facebook post, there was like a lot of people that wanted to see it. There's just a lot of interest. I think he had like FOMO, fear of missing out. And he's like, hey, I'm going to buy it right now.
Gotcha. Well, okay. What did you do? Did you just pay the money, or how'd you orchestrate that?
Yeah. So I had the contract with the seller. And I got that over to a title company I found that was recommended to me that worked with wholesalers. So I put my earnest money down, which I think we put like $100 down. And then I found the buyer, he signed the contract, and then he sent his earnest money. So he sent $5,000 into title to lock up the deal. And then everything from there, we didn't title handle the rest. They made sure all the paperwork was good. They, crossed all the T's, dotted all the I's. And then as soon as the buyer, he sent the rest of the money on closing day, and the seller and the buyer, they both signed, and then I got a wire to my bank account for the wholesaling fee, which was, I think it was like $1,200.
Oh, okay. More than 1,000, like you said.
Yeah, there still wasn't much, but
How many properties that were run down do you think you found by the time this first deal came across?
at least I'd probably say like 400 to 500. So
Okay.
we're driving pretty steady, at least like an hour. So
You said you were hitting the phones. Were you calling all of them, or were you sending mail?
so we sent mail. That one I think we got off a text. The big one we got right after was a mailer, but it was off that DealMachine driving for dollars list that I built.
Okay.
They both were. So I got that one. I think he responded to a text campaign that I did, and because I did that simultaneously. I was doing the text, I was doing the calls, and I was doing the mailers. And while I was waiting for the mailers to hit, that's when I talked to him before we actually got the mailer.
Love it. Well, I'm ready to
Do you
hear.
use any other ways to find deals, or is it strictly just driving for dollars?
At the time, no, that's all I was doing. That's all I knew. Now I'm doing a lot of different things. I'm pulling lists from the county, like code violations, pre-foreclosures. That's one of the big things we like to do, is anything we get from the county, because we can get those before sites like PropStream or Bash, all the big sites where everybody is pulling lists from, and then we can get them first. And so yeah, we prefer to do that if we can.
I'm ready to hear about $60,000.
Yeah.
I want to know the
Yeah.
difference between these two deals.
Yes, I got that one. That one was super frustrating because we thought we were going to make a little bit more money there. But then we found out there's a lien on the house we didn't know of. And luckily the buyer was willing to come up a little bit. And so I split my assignment fee, and the buyer came out of pocket a bit. So that's why I only made the $1,200 on the first one. So I was a little discouraged because it was about 60 days in, me just, really grinding it out and doing it. I'm like, wow, that's a lot of work for just making $1,200 for, 2 months of work. And and then I invested money in software and courses, and at the time, so it was a little frustrating. So then, but I've always been very persistent. So I was stubborn, just wanted to keep going, but it felt good having that proof of concept. Hey, I know this works. I know we can get it done. So I think it was literally a couple days later after we closed on that one. I got a call from one of the mailers, and this lady told me, hey, she wanted to sell. And it was funny because I actually added this one to my driving for dollars list by accident. So when we moved to San Antonio, my wife and I bought a house on the MLS, and it was our first purchase. And we saw this house. And we remembered it because it was orange. It was kind of funny looking. It was quirky. She liked it. I didn't really love it, but we kept visualizing getting this house. And someone ended up beating us with a cash offer, and we ended up getting frustrated. We ended up buying a new build. But that house, we kept thinking about, like, oh, we wish we got that one. And we were driving for dollars, and we drove past that house. And we're like, hey, that's that house. And like, you should click it and see what ended up happening. So we accidentally added to our driving for dollars list because we recognized the house. And that was the one the lady called about, was the one that my wife really wanted to get. But we went to go there. It was the same one.
Crazy.
Yeah, it was so random. Didn't even need to add it to the list because she just bought it like a couple months ago.
Right.
So it wouldn't
Why did
typically
she
be
calling about it?
well, her son, she thought she was moving with her son. Her son was moving out, so she had to downsize. It was a big property. The yard was huge, so she wasn't able to, do all the upkeep by herself. So she's like, hey, I just want out of it. And my wife's also a real estate agent. And so I'm like, hey, you just bought it. You actually have equity because the market was so high. Like, by the couple months she bought it ago, it was already worth more. And she bought it for all cash. And I'm like, hey, if you want, we can list it for you. Or, what I do is a cash offer, but you're probably not going to like that because it's going to be less than what you just paid. And she's like, no, that's fine. I just want a cash offer. And I'm like, okay. She's like, I bought it cash. I want cash. Here's a number I need to be at. And it was really low. And I'm like, are you sure it's what you want to be at? She's like, yeah, that's what I need. Bottom number. That's it. I get that. I'm happy. I'm like, okay, perfect.
And she was taking a loss.
Yeah, she's taking a loss. She already bought an AC. She already did a couple things to the property, but she added another place. She bought a new HVAC unit.
AC. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. She bought a new HVAC unit for the property.
I've got a deal right now where he bought it he owed 180 on it, but he's selling it to me for 160. So he's bringing cash to just get this off his plate.
Yeah,
similar.
You
never expect somebody would do that, but sometimes people just want to walk away.
Mm-hmm. And that's the thing. I mean, you're solving a problem for these people. When somebody wants something, they want it now. She's ready to be done. She didn't want to be in the house. She wanted to go to the next property. She wanted to move on with her life, and this was the only thing holding her back. So me being able to come in and help her solve that problem was a win-win for her.
Gotcha. Wow. What drove you to real estate, Kai? I don't think we talked about that.
Yeah, no. So so I've been an entrepreneur for quite a long time, and I've always wanted to be in real estate. For some reason, it's always in the back of my mind. The first wealthy person I ever met came up through real estate, and I struggled as a kid. I kind of came through some adversity growing up, and I met someone who had money, and they said, "Hey, they told me they struggled too, and they barely graduated high school, but they were a millionaire now, and they had a life I couldn't even imagine at the time." And it was crazy. I just did it all through real estate. So that was kind of always, that seed was always there. But growing up, I thought you needed money. I thought you needed credit. I thought you neneeded rich parents. I thought you needed all these things I couldn't have, which looking back, they're just limiting beliefs. But I thought you needed all these things to get into real estate. So I always thought, hey, one day I'm going to get into it. One day, when I get my stuff together, I'm going to get into real estate. I'm going to save and save and save. And then I'm going to get into it. So for some reason, it's just always there after talking to that guy.
Yeah, so you had looked up to them because they had money. They were further along than you, and that's what inspired you to get into it. You just always thought you had to have these credit and rich parents. But when did you realize that you could get into wholesaling without those parents, without that upbringing?
Yeah, so fast forward a bunch of years. So I got into sales, 18. Then I got into, I started my own business when I was 23. And then I was listening to a bunch of podcasts. I was just like this podcast, and I was reading a bunch of books, and I was trying to absorb everything I could in the meantime, just still planning for that one day, but also taking action. Like I'm sure a lot of listeners are, they want to get there. So I was doing all that stuff. And then one day I think it was a book I was reading. They had this short blurb about something called real estate wholesaling. I think the book was called How to Get into Real Estate Investing with No Money or Low Money Down. And it literally said nothing. It was like a short 2 sentences and said, real estate wholesaling is a way that you can get into real estate investing without needing credit or money or experience or knowing how to fix and flip stuff, which I didn't know how to do either, or fix things up. And you can get into it, but all you need to know is sales and marketing. And it's like a light bulb went off because sales and marketing is all I've done my entire life. So I'm like, damn, what is this? I just went down the rabbit hole and then just stopped looking at all the other forms of real estate investing and just tried to figure out what this real estate wholesaling thing was all about.
Hey guys, if you want to quit your job in the next 3 months, make sure you're subscribed to this podcast because we've got some incredible frameworks with step-by-step instruction that you're not going to want to miss. Also, leave us a rating and review to let us know your favorite parts and why you want to get financial freedom. Gotcha. Well, you've been an entrepreneur before you got into real estate wholesaling. What is your life like now with this business compared to your previous business?
Honestly, it's a lot better. It's the right vehicle. I wish I found it earlier because I did stuff just to make money. Like one of my main businesses was I was working for car dealers and I was doing all their marketing. So I was doing their paid marketing and social media, and it sucked. I wasn't happy. I didn't like it, but I knew the industry because I came up selling cars. And it sucked, and nobody really liked. A lot of the managers were like, well, they didn't want to deal with me. They just had to deal with me. And, anything I did, it felt like, we have a great month. Our marketing would kill it. And they one of the managers, big no, it was all me. I did it. I told my friends about it.
Right. So you actually can take ownership for what results you're producing.
Exactly. Yeah. So I wasn't making money for someone else. I was making money for myself. And then instead of helping other people's businesses and help them be successful and not getting any of the credit or all the rewards, I was able to do it for myself and use my skills, abilities, and just go all in on me.
Now you've made a big check, $60,000, and you've done about 30 deals. Have your other deals kind of been in that range as well?
That was the biggest one. We actually sold that one to Open Door at the time. So we took.
Wow, yeah, you did it. Another wholesaling company.
Yeah. At the time, they're a huge iBuyer company that was buying houses at the time for way above what the market was. And so I figured out how to get that done because I'm like, if I had wholesaled it, I would have made like 20 grand. But I was Googling the prices at Open Door. It said they're like, hey, we'll pay you, there's so much more for the house, where I would have made like the 60 grand. And then so same thing, I had those limiting beliefs like, oh, I wish I had the money to buy this property myself. I wish I had the credit or not. I just bought a house. I did have the credit, but I wish I had the debt to income ratio where I could buy another property and I had the money to take this one down and I could just sell it to them. But I ended up, finding a business partner. I'm like, hey, so instead of thinking, wow, the reasons why I couldn't, I switched my mindset. And I said, what if I could? What would I have to do to do that? I'm like, oh, I'd have to find a business partner. So I actually reached out to a guy, my friend Scott Forte, I used to live all the way back in New Hampshire.
Because to sell the Open Door, you couldn't wholesale it. You couldn't assign it.
No,
you would have to actually own it. Gotcha.
Yeah, you had to own it. So basically like wholetailing, which is, just buying the property, closing on it, and then just selling it right away. but we still closed on that thing within like 30 days. So we bought the property then right away. They changed their policies. They don't do that anymore. I think you have to own it for 60 days now. They don't pay crazy prices like they were. But yeah, at the time it was a home run, and that was kind of a strategy for a bit.
Man, I know you told me your biggest failure was also, this was a great success with business partner. Now your greatest failure also related to choosing the wrong business partner. Tell me more about that.
Yeah. So when I started my first company, it was a timeshare exit company. And then, so we're helping people get out of timeshares, and
that's funny.
Yeah.
I guess a lot of people get sucked into those during these seminars and don't end up using them.
Exactly. Yeah. They basically get locked into, they think they're buying real estate and they think they're investing in real estate, which is kind of a crazy similarity. Then it's almost impossible to get out of on your own, or they won't let you out. And even if you pay it off, they put a mortgage on it. You pay the mortgage off and you still have to pay, these fees every year, like your ownership dues are basically like the similar to HOA fees, like forever, whether you use it or not. And then most of the people don't use it because they have a point system and you can't use it. You can't even book it. So it's a huge scam. So a lot of people get suckered into it. But with the business partner, it was just a buddy that I knew from high school. We were friends. I'm like, oh, hey, great. We never thought the business was going to go anywhere. But we started to do well. And then it was, we didn't really care about the partnership split or anything. We didn't do the contracts the right way. We just, jumped in, 23-year-old kids. Now we're going to figure it out. And it ended up, breaking down where, I felt like I was doing all the work. I was the only one showing up. I was the one managing the office and the employees, and he wasn't there, and he was still getting paid. And then, come to find out at the end of the year, I thought we did really well. I was like 23, I think our second year, we did like $500,000. And I was, I looked at the numbers. I'm like, we did $500,000. I should have some money, I'm like, no, where all the money's at. And so he was handling the books and the banks. And I was just doing sales and driving the company. And so I go back and I look and I'm like, oh, this guy's been taking money this whole time and using the business accounts, like his personal accounts, and just taking all the money out. And
oh man, how did you get out of that?
I just ended up, confronting him about it. They say I wouldn't do it, was a thing. And then I caught him doing it again shortly after. I'm like, oh, it's, maybe we'll live and let learn. And, it's a sucker for punishment. I ended up going to a seminar and they talked about like, you got to cut out the people that you got to cut out. You got to do the hard thing. You're supposed to do. And I'm like, oh, that's the hard thing I have to do. I'm like, So I didn't want to leave all the employees high and dry. And I was already planning on moving to Texas. And I'm like, I want a fresh start. I want to go somewhere. I want to get into real estate. And, so I ended up, just telling them like, hey man, you can just buy me out. Like, I own majority of the company, but you can just buy me out. I know you don't have, the money right now because our money's not in the business bank account, but we ended up just structuring a fee where he paid me like a small amount monthly. And the agreement was supposed to be that he was going to pay me like in the, once like next month or two, once we had some more revenue coming in, like that we were already doing. But then he ended up waiting and like dragging it out for 3 years and paying me like the bare minimum the whole time. But
so what would your advice be for somebody who does feel like they want a business partner?
I'd say to, just vet them. Like, you don't want someone with the same skills that you have. Really for me, we didn't sit down and like set our roles properly. We didn't set who's going to do what. So, I was left feeling a certain way. He was left feeling a certain way. Maybe, I'm sure in his mind, he didn't think he was doing anything wrong.
Wait, he was taking all the money and didn't think like he was doing anything wrong?
Well, I feel like people justify things to themselves, or, who knows, but, it's like, I'm sure in his mind, like nobody's ever the victim in their mind, everyone's the hero of their own story. Yeah. So I think, don't just partner just with anyone just because somebody wants to work with you is probably the biggest lesson. But then just making sure when you do find someone, they're actually bringing something to the table, and you're setting clear rules, expectations, and, get everything in a contract, to just go off a handshake deal.
Kai, do you think it's necessary to even have a partner when you're starting out?
No, definitely not. Yeah, I don't think you need one. It can be helpful, but don't just partner with your buddy from high school would be my.
Sometimes I think that people think that it's either they want somebody to do it with them because they're nervous to do it by themselves, or they think that it's helpful to have a partner, but really the partnership, all that you're doing is cutting what you could earn on your own in half because you're splitting it. And to your point, if you don't have clear expectations for what they're going to do versus what you're going to do, you're really selling yourself short. You can go out and get a deal on your own. You don't need to split anything with anyone until you have so much deal volume coming in and you need help. That's, to me, that's when you go out and you find somebody. But then
You don't even need them.
that's a whole different
Yeah, I mean, if you
ballpark.
have the money coming in, you have
Why not hire
hire
somebody?
people. Yeah.
That's exactly right. Hire somebody.
I think a big thing, and I think it was my thing at the time, probably too a bit, was its ego. And you want to bring someone else in. So if it fails, it doesn't work out, because we never expected to be successful in the beginning. We assumed it was going to fail. So, but if someone else is there, if your ego doesn't take as big of a hit because it wasn't all you, that person was there too. They were the ones who messed up.
It's a limiting mindset that you can go out. You don't need help. You don't need a partner to mask that. You can go and do it on your own. There's so much proof of concept is done by so many of the people that we talk to on a weekly basis on this podcast. Like the proof of concept is here. You have it. Now just go and source your own deal and make your own money and go out and grow it on your
The
own.
funny thing is, all three of us, I think, have a partner, right? Because I think you both work with your wives.
We do. Yeah, I work with my wife. Yeah, that's the best.
I mean, that's
business partner,
an in-house.
How's
Whatever
that?
you do in life, it's an in-house partner.
So for me, it's great. So like I said, I've been an entrepreneur for a while. So I've been an entrepreneur. So I was 23. I'm 31 now. So about 8 years. And then she started a bit later. So it was actually about the same time I exited that company and sold it to that business partner I mentioned. She left, and she left. She was a retail manager, and she left. I kept pushing her to do her own thing. She wasn't happy. All the retail stores she was working at kept closing, and she had to keep letting all these employees go. So it was like super hard to watch her go through that every time.
Okay.
And so I'm like, hey, just start your own thing. So I ended up buying her course. It's like a social media management course. I'm like, yeah, start your course. You'll figure it out. I'm like, I have a business. It's easy. Anyone can do it. Obviously, it's not. But I left. I sold the business. I had nothing to do at the time. So I'm like, hey, I'm just going to jump all in with you. And then same thing. We didn't set clear roles, clear expectations of who was doing what. So she felt a certain way that I was coming in, like I didn't believe in her, and that I was like pushing, sales. And
Oh, you were stepping over what she might have been doing.
exactly, yeah. And then I just didn't have anything going on or plan when I left my company. So I'm like, I'll just jump in with you, and it wasn't a great way to do it. So I think we lasted like 2 or 3 months before we're like, no. And then we split and each started our own marketing company at the time, doing the same thing, but it's not working together.
Yeah.
And then we're like, oh, it doesn't work. You can't work with your spouse. And then I just had to grow a lot as a man, as a leader, as a business operator. And then I think maybe about 2 years ago now, we started working together again. Now it's been great because we set clear roles, we cut clear expectations on who's doing what. This is what I'm good at. This is what you're good at. We're not both butting heads trying to do the same thing. So
Yeah.
took me a while,
yeah.
but I learned a lesson.
So do you have a lot of time for your hobbies like hiking, BJJ, and video games?
I do. Yeah. I mean, I do, but it's, but sometimes I feel guilty doing it. So I have to like consciously remind myself to get out of the business. And like, I know I'm operating the best in my business when I'm not in the business all the time. Because like part of me is like, no, you got to go, you got to be here. If you're not doing it, you're missing out on deals.
Right.
But I'm always operating better. And I'm like, I get more done in less time when I am spending time on my hobbies.
It's funny, you also feel that guilty feeling of taking time off to do hobbies when you're maybe supposed to be between 9 to 5, because the whole reason why we do this is to make more money and have more time. But a lot of us aren't good at taking more time, I notice. I feel the same guilt when I know my partner's working, for example, and I'm taking time off to go do something fun. What is BJJ?
Jiu-jitsu.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, Brazilian Jiu-jitsu.
Gotcha. That's
You
pretty
just go
scary, but handy
around and get choked
if
up.
you're going to be, breaking into abandoned houses.
Yeah.
When did you get into that?
So I started when I first moved to Texas. So I lost a lot of weight. So when I had that first business, I was doing well financially, but I wasn't doing well in my personal relationships. We weren't married at the time, but my now wife, my health was awful. I was like 70, 80 pounds overweight. I was just all in on the one thing. And then I just let every other area of my life, go to shit, for lack of a better word. But I finally, once I left, I did 75 hard, got in shape for the first time. And then I moved down to Texas, and I always wanted to get into martial arts. As a kid, I got in a lot of fights. I always liked fighting.
You got into a lot of fights as a kid?
Yeah.
Damn. I
Yeah.
got punched in the stomach once by a guy named Justin. I didn't fight back.
That's too funny. Yeah, I moved around a lot as a kid, and I was always a new kid at school. So I think I went to like 12 different high schools. And so it's like I was always a new kid, and I was tall and like big, and people, I don't know. I was mad at the world, so people wanted to fight me.
So have you ever had to use that when you're exploring an abandoned house and say a naked homeless guy pops out?
No, I haven't. Yeah, we leave. Yeah, first thing you want to learn is, especially when you're older, you just want to avoid the fight if you can. That's you win by not getting into a fight. But yeah, that was I know it was one of the things we were talking about. One of the first properties I went to look at when I first started wholesaling. We went to this super sketchy house. It was burned down. I called the guy. I'm like, dude, I don't see how to get in, so I'll board it up and condemned. He's like, oh, well, there's a hole. There's a hole in the side of the building. You just climb through it. Oh, what do you mean there's a hole? Okay, and it's like, I didn't know San Antonio at the time, and this is like the east side. It's like real rough area. And so I go in there. I'm with another investor I met at a local RIA, and he's like an older guy too, and he's small, and he's like, we were like, oh, this is like kind of, you can see like we're both like real tense, like going in, and then like I heard something, and I'm like, dude, I think I hear something in there, as he's starting to climb through the hole. And he's like, oh, I'm like, hold on, dude, like I hear something. He's like, huh? I'm like, oh, I hear something, dude. And like I look out, and there's like this big jacked, like naked homeless guy. He's like pretty good shape. He's got, homeless, but he just jumped out. He's completely naked, jumped around the corner, and he goes, hey, like, what are you doing here? And I'm like, bro, we're here to look at the house. He's like, oh, well, hold on, give me a second. And then he turns around, he starts pissing on the side of the wall in front of us. I'm like, all right, I think it's time to go.
Yeah.
So,
oh man.
So we left. That wasn't the house for us.
You didn't do that deal.
No.
Gotcha. Well, Kai, where can people actually find you? Because I know you have your own podcast, right?
I do.
You speak on stages and you help people with their questions when they're getting started.
I do. Yeah. So I put out a lot of free content. Probably the best way, though, is a real estate wholesaling syndicate. That's the name of the podcast. It's also the name of the free Facebook group. I'm on YouTube, do a bunch of free content. Every Wednesday. So today I do live cold calls, but yeah, I'm an open book. Anyone needs help getting started.
Oh, live cold calls. That would be super helpful. That's a great reason to check out that Facebook group. Mm-hmm. The Real Estate Wholesaling Syndicate.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Kai. It was great getting to know you a little better and hearing your story.
Man, thanks for having me on, guys. Appreciate you.
Of course. Take it easy. Bet. So, guys, if you guys got any value from this podcast, please leave us a review. It helps us make more content to get you to financial freedom, and make sure you're subscribed. We'll see you on the next one.
Thanks for listening to the DealMachine Real Estate Investing Podcast. Please leave us a review and follow along wherever you're listening to your podcast.